All right. Hello, good afternoon, morning, evening. I'm going to start my videos all the same way. Today we are doing a little bit of a reteach on evaluating functions. And then towards the end, we're going to work on graphing, giving a limited domain. So first things first, I'm going to model this problem, and then you are going to go through and solve 4 of them. And then I'm going to model this one, and then you will work through and solve 4 of them. So let's go ahead and get started with this first one here. So we have if f of x equals 3x plus 1, find f of negative 5. So a reminder here that this means my x is negative 5. Negative 5 is my input. This is x. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this wherever I see an x value. So here and here. I'm going to make my pen a little smaller. Okay, so we have f of negative 5 equals 3 times negative 5 plus 1. Now this right here does nothing. This is simply saying my function when I input negative 5 equals something. Okay? This right here does nothing. This is the same thing as having like a y right here instead of this. This is just a way to say like when I plug in negative 5, this is what I get. So now what we are going to do is solve and figure out what we get. So I'm going to do f of negative 5 equals 3 times negative 5 is negative 15 plus 1. So this means f of negative 5 equals negative 14. Again, when I'm given this, this tells me x is negative 5, and we're going to plug it in wherever we see an x. Over here on the left side, all this is saying is f, my function when I put in negative 5, equals some number, and we're figuring out what that number is. Okay, there are 4 more problems for you to do. The first one, I give you some hints on how to get started, and then some arrows, and then you're on your own for the last 2. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to give you, let's see, 2 minutes to solve these 4 problems. Go ahead, your 2 minutes starts now. Pause me, and then come back and play me when you are done. Right. So again, we solved the first one. The next one we got 5. So we plug in 2. So my function when I input 2 gives me 4 times 2 minus 3. 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 minus 3, which then gives me 5. So f of 2 equals 5. The next one we add plugging in 1. So my function when I input 1 is negative 5 times 1 plus 3. That gives me negative 5 plus 3, which gives me negative 2. The last one we we have 2 more. This one we plugged in 6. My function when I put in 6 gives me 4 times 6 minus 2. So 24 minus 2, so 22. Last one, we plug in negative 7. So my function when I have negative 7 plugged in is 2 times negative 7 minus 3. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14 minus 3. We get negative 17. Beautiful. Pause me, remind me, do whatever you got to do to make sure you have those filled out. On to the next one. So this is using outputs to find inputs. So I'm telling you what was coming out of my function. We're trying to figure out what we put in. So we're trying to figure out what x was. What was this thing that we plugged in when my function equaled 10? So this means I'm going to take this number and I'm putting it right here. I am telling you, find your input, find the thing we plugged in to get out a 10. So I got out a 10 from the function of 3x plus 1. Let's figure out what we put in to get 10. So we just solve this equation. I first get rid of any addition and subtraction, and I get 9 equals 3x. We then divide by 3. And we get 3 equals x. So that means in order to get out a 10, we had to put in a 3. Okay. Again, make sure you have that. 4 more problems here. Okay, before you do that, notice the difference. Here I gave you the thing to plug in, and we found the number that came out. I gave you x is -5, we put it in, and we figured what that gave me out from my function. Here on this blue side, we know what came out. We have to figure out what x is. We have to figure out what the thing was that we put in. So that is what I want you to do. Again, I give you a little hint here to help you get started. 1 tiny little hint here, and then 2 on your own. Pause me, try these, come back when you're finished, or if you're stuck. All right. So the first one, we take 15 and we plug it in as our output. 15 equals 2x minus 3. Add 3 to both sides, divide by 2, and you get 9. Plus 3, 2 times x, so we divide by 2 and we get 9. The next one, plug in 103 as our output. Start by subtracting 3 from both sides. 100 equals -5x. Divide both sides by -5 and we get -20. Next one, we plugged in 14 for the output. Add 7 to both sides. Then we have 3x is 21. Divide both by 3 and we get 7. And then lastly, plug in 22 for the output. Add 2 to both sides. Divide by 4 and we get x equals 6. Make sure you check your answers. You have them all complete. Okay, super important that you realize the difference between these two and what they are asking. Here we plug in a value. What do we get out? Here we plug in the output and we have to solve for x. Okay, next thing we're going to do is learn how to graph on an interval. So we have this equation here, and I want you to graph it between 0 and 2. So that means I want my x values, the things that I put in, to be between 0 and 2. So what we can do is we can create a table here where we can have x and then our output, which again is the same thing as y. And I'm going to just make a table with these two numbers. 0, that is my smallest x value that I want to look at. And then 2 was the largest number I want to look at. So we just make a table with those two numbers. Come on. Sorry, y'all. It's not. Ah. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry, it was really frustrating. Okay, so we have our two x values that we need. Our smallest x value was 0. Our largest x value was 2. And now we can plug them into our equation. So we have 2x plus 3. But I'm telling us that x is going to be 0. This is my input. So instead of having x here, let's go ahead and input 0. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 3. So that means my output was 3. And then we do the same thing with the 2. 2 is my input, so let's put it into my equation here. Again, this was 2x plus 3. So my 2 is going to replace the x, because that is what I'm putting in. And we get 4 plus 3, which equals 7. So that is my output when we plug in 2. And then now we can graph these 2 points. 0, 3. 0 is right here, up 3. So we're going to make a point right here. And the next point was 2, 7. 2. Off my graph, sorry. 7, somewhere up here. Okay. There's my line between, I'll have a new, you should have a new graph on yours, so yours should be good. So now we have graphed this line between these two values. My minimum x, my domain here is 0, my largest x, the largest part of my domain is 2, so my graph should not go beyond 2, and it doesn't. So again, all you want to do is create a table with these 2 points, 0 and 2, and then plug those values into your given equation and then graph them. So down here, I'm going to get you started, and then you're going to finish it. We have graph the function on the interval on the domain -1 to 4. So this is your minimum x value, this is your maximum x value. So that's what we're going to make our table out of. So we have -1 and then 4. So next you're going to take -1, plug it in, find your output, and put that here. Then you're going to plug in 4. Find your output, plug that in here, and then graph them. Go ahead and take a minute to do that, and then come back and check your answers. So pause me, finish this problem, go ahead and do that now. All right, so doing that, my equation was 3x minus 2. Instead of x, we're plugging in -1. So we have -3 minus 2, which is going to give me a -5. And then now we plug in 4. So we have 3 times x minus 2. But now we don't have an x. Now we're plugging in 4. 3 times 4 is 12 minus 2. And that's going to give me 10. And now we graph that. So -1, -5, -1 is here, -5 is down here, and then 4, 10, 4, and then again, on mine, I do not have the right graph, but you will have the right graph on your screen. So from here, I would go up 10, which is probably like way up here. Sorry. On your graph, you're looking for the value that says 10. So over 4 up to 10, and then now we connect them because this is a graph, so we need to draw a line, and then now we have a graph that is on the interval between -1 and 4. Okay, beautiful. There they are. Now you have independent practice to complete and then a mastery check. So pay attention to what this is asking you for, okay? Refer back up to these and look at which one this looks like. Am I giving you the output here or the input? Solve it. Am I giving you the output or the input? Solve it. Graph on an interval. Again, 2 functions, and then graph on an interval. And then go ahead and take your mastery check. All right, send me a message when you're finished. Let me know if I can do anything for you. See you later.